The rain poured down in torrents, soaking everything it touched, the streets slick and glistening under the neon lights of the city. In the middle of this storm stood a man in a tailored suit, his polished shoes clicking on the wet pavement as he walked briskly, eager to escape the downpour. Yet, despite the relentless rain, his gaze was fixed not ahead of him, but to the woman who kneeled in front of him, crying desperately. Her voice pierced the air, louder than the rumbling thunder. "Please, don't take my baby." He stopped in his tracks. In that moment, nothing else mattered. The cold rain, the city that never stopped, the fancy car waiting for him, none of it could drown out her words. The woman, her face streaked with tears and dirt, clutched her baby with an iron grip, as if it were the only thing tethering her to life itself. The man was rich, he had everything, wealth, status, influence. But standing there, faced with a woman in utter despair, he suddenly realized that his life, for all its success, had been lacking something fundamental. Humanity. Empathy. A soul. Before we dive deeper into this transformative moment, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to Whispers of Kindness. Your support means the world to us and helps us bring more stories of hope and compassion to the world. A few hours earlier, Jason Carter, the millionaire CEO of a successful tech company, had been sitting in his penthouse office, reviewing documents and strategizing for his company's future. His world was one of sharp suits, luxury cars, and late-night meetings. But even the most successful of men can sometimes feel an emptiness, an itch they can't scratch. It was during one of his late-night drives home that he saw her, the woman who would change everything. At first, he had almost driven past. She was just another person huddled on the street, another face lost in the sea of the homeless population. But then her eyes met his, and for a brief moment, their gazes locked. There was something in those eyes that stopped him, a raw, unfiltered desperation. He rolled down the window, a reflex born of his usual charity. "Do you need help?" he had asked. The woman, shivering from the cold, had looked up at him, her face pale and streaked with rain. "Please, don't take my baby." Jason's heart dropped. There was no denying the weight in her voice. This wasn't just a plea for help, it was a cry for mercy. And for some reason, Jason couldn't walk away. Her name was Maria, a mother who had lost everything. She had once been a woman with dreams, a woman who believed in love, family, and hope. But life, as it often does, had turned its back on her. She had been married to a man who promised her a future, only to be left alone with a newborn and nowhere to turn. One bad decision after another had led her to this street, her heart broken, her dignity lost. She had found herself living in shelters, moving from one temporary home to another, until the day her situation had reached its lowest point. The state had decided her son, little Noah, deserved better, a home, a future. And just like that, the system threatened to take him away. No matter how hard she tried to convince them she could be the mother he needed, no matter how many promises she made, the system told her she was too broken, too unstable, too far gone. "Please, don't take my baby," she begged Jason again, the tears flowing freely now as she held Noah to her chest, like a mother trying to shield her child from the storms of the world. Jason stood there, his thoughts racing. He had a team, a family, an empire. What could he possibly do? He wasn't a social worker, and he certainly didn't have the time or patience to deal with these kinds of situations. He had spent his life chasing success, building his empire, but now, in this moment, he had to confront something far greater than business, humanity. For a moment, Jason considered walking away. After all, he had a flight to catch, a meeting to attend. He had a future to secure. But the pleading in Maria's eyes, the way she held her child, spoke of a future she wasn't willing to lose. He took a step toward her, and then another, until he was standing right beside her. "What's your name?" he asked, his voice softer now. "Maria," she whispered, her voice cracking. "And this is Noah." Jason knelt down beside her, looking at the child. He was so small, so innocent. "I can help," Jason said before he even realized the weight of his words. "I'll make sure they don't take him." Over the next few weeks, Jason became part of Maria's life in ways he never imagined. He learned about the broken system that had failed her, the series of misfortunes that had led to her downfall, and the struggles of a single mother trying to survive on the fringes of society. Jason used his influence, his wealth, and his connections to fight for Maria and Noah. He hired lawyers, gathered social workers, and reached out to child protective services. He did what he had never done before. He fought for something that wasn't his, something that didn't benefit him. But the road wasn't easy. The system was slow, filled with red tape and skepticism. Maria's past was a challenge, and her case wasn't the only one the social workers were dealing with. Jason found himself facing resistance at every turn. But with every door that closed, he pushed harder, using his resources, his status, and his connections to ensure that Maria would have a chance at a better life. It wasn't just about keeping Noah with her anymore. It became about giving Maria hope, about helping her rebuild her life, step by step. Jason enrolled her in a support program for single mothers, offered her a small apartment through his connections, and set her up with a job at a local cafe. Slowly but surely, Maria's world began to change. One rainy afternoon, as Jason met Maria at her new apartment, he saw the transformation in her eyes. She wasn't just surviving anymore, she was living. She had a future, a chance to show Noah what it meant to rise from the ashes. "I don't know how to thank you," Maria said, tears in her eyes, as she embraced Jason. "You don't have to thank me," Jason replied, his voice quiet. "You're doing the hard work now. You're the one who's changing your life." And in that moment, Jason realized something. He hadn't just saved Maria and Noah. He had saved himself. In helping them, he had found a purpose beyond his company, beyond his wealth. He had found humanity. As the years passed, Jason and Maria remained close. She had gone on to finish her education, become a mentor for other single mothers, and, most importantly, had raised Noah to be a kind, compassionate young man. Jason's company continued to thrive, but he now focused on giving back, using his wealth and influence to help those who needed it most. He had walked away from his life of shallow success and walked into something far more meaningful. He had learned that sometimes, the most important investment isn't in a company or a product, it's in people. Thank you for reading this story. If you were moved by Jason's journey, please leave a comment below and share your thoughts. And don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to Whispers of Kindness for more inspiring stories that will warm your heart. Remember, a single act of kindness can change a life. Let's spread kindness together.